EP.7. Welcome to another episode of Streets and Scholars. This is Alex Alonso. I'm here with FG, aka Frank Thornton. How you doing today, man?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good, bro. How you holding up?
Oh man, everything's great, man. There's been so much stuff going on in the news.
Oh yeah, no doubt. It's cracking out there.
It's been a packed news day. But when you say it's cracking, man, these streets is also cracking right now too.
Yeah, they running wild, man.
Yeah, they are running wild. But let me go through a quick fact check from last week and actually the week before. Remember we were talking about if Jussie Smollett could make a comeback. I think you said probably not, huh? And we talked about the actor Robert Downey Jr. He was able to make a comeback. Mm-hmm. But I mentioned a sister that was not able to make a comeback. That was in the movie Love Jones. You ever seen the movie Love Jones? Yeah. Remember the curly head chick that was the friend of Nia Long? Her name was actually Lisa Nicole Carson. In 2000, she went crazy. Mm-hmm. And she's never been the same since. Mm-hmm. And if you remember, she was in movies and TV shows
right.
in the late 90s. Yeah. Cute little curly head sister. Mm-hmm. She had a mental illness binge and never came back. So that's an example of somebody that it could happen to us.
Oh, no doubt. It can, definitely. But, different circumstances, different situations,
So yeah, I'm still rooting for Jussie Smollett to make a comeback, but I just don't like the fact that this dude is a serial liar, and it's so blatantly obvious that he's a liar. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt, but he do have people backing him, So somebody out there give him a chance. I don't know if he'll get back to be, to the status that he was, but I'm sure somebody will give him a chance and another opportunity. They people are for redemption. Try to help you out.
And then also we mentioned in last episode 6 about the no bail situation, and you said it didn't really go through, and I think it's still pending. So I would invite everybody to look up SB 262. That's the California state bill that's supposed to revamp bail in California.
Bail system, yeah.
And I actually, it's very confusing to read. I didn't have enough time. Maybe next week I'll go through SB 262. But that's the no bail situation. And what's your whole overall take on it? Do you think sometimes bail is just too much?
No, I'm definitely hoping that don't go through. Because the situation that they want to go through is for you to see a judge before you can be granted bail. No, man, I believe that you should be able to bond out soon as because you're accused at this moment. You're not convicted. Let me pay my bail, set your bail to what you're gonna say to that, and and let me get out, speak to my attorneys publicly, privately, and fight my case.
But I thought in some instances they were going to have either very low bail or no bail on some offenses.
Well, on that end of it, those are for low-level offenses. So, I mean, if it's a low-level offense, then of course, I'm not, too hard on that. But when it comes to, even with attempted murder, you should at least have a bail. It may be high, but you should at least have one, If I'm not convicted yet, let me bail out, fight my case until I am,
Yeah, most definitely. I remember I got arrested for a gun once, a gun that was not registered to me, and my bail was $1,000. It wasn't really a whole lot, but I see dudes getting arrested for guns and being right out the next day without even paying bail. Like they just let them out.
I don't know if that has something to do with, for one, their background. Maybe they don't have a serious background. And for two, I mean, California jail system is just overcrowded, just period. So I do know a lot of people that's getting right out based on, overcrowdedness. So that could play a factor.
Yeah, I had $1,000 on a gun case, and I just paid the whole $1,000. I didn't even do
the bail bonds.
I didn't even do the 10%. I just paid the whole $1,000. Got out, and check it out. When I got to court, they dismissed the whole thing because of an illegal search and seizure.
Well, I've had a couple illegal searches and seizure. I've won a couple illegal searches and seizures, and I was a convicted felon. So I believe in the system does work if your attorney present the case appropriately.
And you have to not give them permission to search your car.
No doubt.
They might still search it. If you say if they ask you, hey, can I search your car, and you say yes, then you're done.
Then you're done.
Yeah.
Torrance tried to catch me up like that. They said that I consented to them searching my car, and Frank DiGiacomo got on them heavy. Because I had we just fought Linwood and Compton twice for illegal searches and seizures. So, he hit him with, why would my client knowingly, you know what I mean? This dude knows, And the strategy that Frank had, man, that I didn't try to play like I didn't know it was in there. It was a gun case. I admitted to it was mine. But you illegally searched my vehicle, and we caught him lying a little bit. Which sometimes you do.
I actually had to do the same thing because I was in the car with 3 other dudes, and the LAPD dude said, "Whose gun is this? If nobody claims this gun, everybody's going to jail." So I immediately said, "Hey, it's mine. Let everybody go." So they let them go. But I never consented to the search.
Right, no doubt, no doubt. And on one of those instances, I had a buddy with me, and he said, well, if you say it's yours, I'll let your buddy go. I told him what I'm saying is, if whatever you find in that car, I'm taking responsibility for. That's how I worded that. You know what I mean? But
yeah. I'm not consenting to whatever you find. Whatever you find, put it on me. But I'm not consenting to it. Yeah, but I was actually surprised because I was just young. I was surprised. I went to court. I'm like, everybody telling me, "Oh, you're gonna get 6 months in the county. You're gonna get a year," and I came back. And I was like, all y'all was wrong.
Yeah.
I got a case dismissed because of illegal search and seizure, and I got my whole $1,000 back. I even tried to get the gun back, but I couldn't get the gun back.
Right.
But that's before I was able to be a registered gun owner. I don't promote buying guns off the streets like I did back then. If you are eligible to buy a gun, go ahead and buy a gun. What's crazy? There's not one gun shop in the city of LA.
You know what? I didn't notice that till you just said something, because I don't remember seeing it.
There's not one. The city of LA does not allow any businesses to sell guns.
How long ago was that, though?
It's been like that for a minute. There used to be a gun shop in downtown LA. They got rid of that place. And there was another one in Hollywood. Yeah. So the closest gun store right now is in Culver City.
Oh, wow.
They got one on Washington, a nice one in Culver City. Or you can go out to the Santa Clarita or up in the high desert. There's 100 gun shops up there.
Right.
But the city of LA does not have a gun shop.
Man, that's crazy.
Because the city does not want to promote buying guns, even legally.
No, I got you, but there's plenty around here.
Yeah, you just got to go outside of LA.
Yeah.
Just like with fireworks. You can't buy any fireworks in LA, but you can go to Inglewood, Gardena, Compton, which makes no sense, right?
Well, I mean, the city can only account for what they can account for. So, they're trying to, push the measures to where they say they can, they're trying to make it better for their city. So I get it,
Yeah, but we just gonna go buy
no doubt
fireworks in Inglewood and bring it right back to the block.
Bring it right back to the block.
All right, and one more thing. Remember I mentioned last week we were talking about that crazy right winger that went to trial. I think his name was Reffitt.
Oh yeah.
Was it Reffitt?
Yep, it was.
And then I mentioned the Black Panthers. 1967. 30 Black Panthers protested on the steps of the California State House armed with .357s, 12-gauge shotguns, 45 caliber pistols. And it was all legal at the time.
It was legal at the time, yeah.
And they even went into the building.
No doubt, but they still, condemned them, made it seem like they were, it was an act of terrorism, but it was all legal at the time.
And they yelled, "It is time for the black man to arm himself." And everybody was spooked when they did that. Everyone thought that they should go to prison. And everyone was like, "Oh no, it's legal.
It's legal."
They didn't do any. There was no crime committed.
No doubt.
But then they changed. You try to do that now.
Oh no, shit.
Try to go to Sacramento with a shotgun.
Yeah. Your ass gonna be laying out in front of the Capitol.
No doubt about it. All right, man. Let's get into some of our topics here, man. We got a few of them, but the first thing I wanted to talk about is another smash and grab robbery in Beverly Hills. I know you saw that crazy video.
Oh, that was wild, man. I was checking that out, and I when I scrolled past and saw it, I just stopped and looked and was like, wow, they was getting it.
Guess how much money worth of jewelry, according to the owner, that they stole?
What they say?
$5 million worth.
Damn.
Now, what can you do with $5 million worth of jewelry? There's no way you can sell that.
No doubt. It's definitely going to be hard to pawn or hawk or, get fence or get rid of. But at the same time, believe me, they will do it.
Now, what I thought was so crazy about it is that they did it in Beverly Hills in broad daylight under cameras on every corner. They got pictures of the getaway car. Right. They got pictures of the other car they got into. Right. Of course, their faces were covered. Yeah. But I'm saying to myself, it's just a matter of time before they figure out who y'all are.
No doubt, because they got the system where they'll follow that car, for miles and miles and miles via cameras, and it may even take them a month to do it, but they'll get it done, and just hopefully that second car they got into, they, maybe that one didn't have, registered plates to somebody they know or something like that. But
You saying hopefully? I know who you're rooting for.
you know what? I said the same thing when I said that. I said obviously who I'm rooting for, but not that I'm for robberies and smash and grabs, but it's just crazy how I'm seeing this in modern day time. This look like some savage stuff from back in the day. You know what I mean? This modern day 2022, and they walked up in there. Now the thing about it is though, they didn't use a gun. So when they get caught, if they get caught, that takes a lot less time off of it. They didn't hold nobody hostage. They didn't threaten nobody. So I'm itching to see, how this plays out based on none of those factors are involved.
Can they get charged with? They used a sledgehammer and axes.
Right.
Those can be considered weapons, though, right?
Yeah, but you didn't use a weapon to detain nobody. You didn't basically kidnap nobody. You didn't hold nobody against their will. To me, it just seems like a theft.
Yeah, simple theft.
I mean, seem like it, but that don't mean they won't rack up the charges somehow,
And it seems like this would definitely go federal because of the value of the jewelry, because the jewelry is all insured. And the FBI is probably going to move in and help investigate.
Oh, no doubt. I think they'll take the case over because, like you say, the insurance companies may push for it. Beverly Hills is probably going to push for it, because these incidents are happening more and more often in the prestige city of Beverly Hills. And these people pay too many millions of dollars to live there, and for things like this to happen, in their eyes,
They must be spooked because of all the drama that's popping up in Beverly Hills.
I mean, they gotta be. And like I say, believe me, they at the city hall meetings with under fire, got the city hall under fire about getting a hand on this, but at the same time, how can you get a hand on something you don't know when it's gonna happen or how it's gonna happen?
Yeah, there's really nothing you can do about that. If someone is that bold enough to come with sledgehammers and axes and bust in the window, hey, you're gonna have to eat that. Right?
Yeah, but that was a greedy move right there. I mean, they wanted that bad. They went and got that. They did that. I'm like, damn.
Now, my question is, it was 5 of them dudes. Mm-hmm. I always noticed, especially with all the cases that I work on, the more people involved in an offense, the more likely this one of these persons is going to tell if they get caught.
No doubt. But let me be clear on one thing. Sometimes it's not the people involved in the actual heist that tells. It's the baby mama. It's the homie that y'all told y'all was going to do this. It's somebody else that y'all told. One homie was supposed to go and he didn't make it, so y'all left him. You know what I mean? These are some of the factors. It's not always the crime. Even though you're right, if they get caught, somebody, it's too many people to have to trust, but it's usually somebody else. Baby mama didn't got mad you didn't come home last night. You know what I mean? And or she told her friend and they got into an argument. I mean, you'll be surprised how people get to the bottom of some of these cases, man, when it comes to somebody informing on them.
Also, the drama can be created about how they decide to divide up this millions of dollars of jewelry.
No doubt, because somebody gonna say, man, you didn't even have a sledgehammer, or you ran, you took all you didn't, or I grabbed this. I'm keeping what I grabbed. You know what I mean? It could be that type of situation. And anytime you got those number of criminals on one case, it always get ugly with that.
Now, I watched this video several times, and I noticed there was one dude that got pushed by the businessman.
I saw that, yeah.
And then when he was running off, he dropped a bunch of watches, too.
Yeah.
And I think the guy said he dropped like 3 watches that was worth like $60,000.
Damn.
I think it's embarrassing to be the dude that you dropped almost $100,000 worth of jewelry, and when they get back to the spot, they probably gonna say, "All right, you messed up your opportunity.
Yeah.
We're taking these from you. We're keeping this. We're dividing it like that." And then where do you put all of this stuff? Because you have to assume. This is the way I'm thinking. You have to assume all 5 of these people have to assume the police is going to be knocking on your door in the next few days. So you cannot have any of this jewelry in any of your homes.
Well, greed and hunger, not saying that these guys were broke or didn't have it. They could have just been bold and, out for more money. But a lot of times, when you're back up against the wall and you hunger for money, when this kind of situation, they should sit on that jury for a while, plan it out how they going to get rid of it, whether take it to another state or something like that. But the greedy one who said, I need money right now, today, I got to eat today, I need to feed my baby this week, they're the ones that go try to pawn it, and most of the time, a lot of these jury people have connections with each other. You know what I mean? They could have sent out some kind of mass picture to all the jewelers. Hey man, this come through. You know, give us a call. You know, call the law enforcement. So they got to be careful how they even get rid of it.
And I would think that all the pawn shops are obligated to the police when they know stolen merchandise is coming in. Like they got to call and report it and say, hey, we got this dude down here with a $100,000 watch.
I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know that. I think that depends on the integrity of the pawn shop. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, everybody about making money. So if they can see that this dude really don't know what he has, or he really accept this much, and I know I can get this much, I mean, I think that lies on the integrity of the pawn shop or company that they fence it to.
Now, you mentioned out of state. That seems to be the smartest thing to do is sit on this, go across the country, and find buyers.
No doubt, no doubt. I mean, you know, if they organize guys, you know what I mean, which they planned with sledgehammer. So I think they took the gun stuff in the factors. I think they took the not having any hostages into account. I think they kind of planned all that out. So I don't think they that dumb or nothing. So they may go somewhere and say, hey, look, we just going to put all this up. We going to go do some other stuff. By the time we finish our other stuff, this will be ready to go, you know, and some time has passed. Yeah, and you take it to another state, get on a plane with it, and, you know, line it up, you know.
Now, they also found some of the tools. They left some of the tools behind. I don't know if it was a sledgehammer or an axe. Mm-hmm. You know how some of these cops are. They be like, we're going to track this tool to a store.
Only Ace Hardware sell this axe, you know what I mean?
Get the cameras of the day that was sold.
Oh, no doubt. They'll do on this case, they're going to do a thorough investigation.
Okay, so in your opinion, what is the likelihood that these 5 brothers, I don't know if they're brothers or Latino or white, because I didn't see their faces, but these 5 people, what is the likelihood that they're all gonna get busted?
I don't think they all will. Hopefully the guy, or hopefully for him, you know, that whoever dropped that axe or whoever left some evidence, hopefully didn't nobody get cut on that glass and didn't leave a drop of blood. I mean, there's so many factors on how they can get caught, but at the same time, if you know the rules, if you in the gang, when I say a gang, not that they're gang members, just a gang, a certain 5 or more people doing a crime. Hey man, you get caught, you gotta, you supposed to hold it.
I think all 5 of them are gonna get popped.
Yeah.
Just because of technology. It was so blatant, it was so out in the open, and there's so many cameras watching their every move. Even the cameras before they got there, they're gonna go back and look at the arrival cameras.
All that, yeah.
And then maybe they're gonna say, hey, these guys probably staked out this place a week before, 2 weeks before. We're gonna go back and look at when they just walked in, like 2 weeks before, when their faces are shown.
No doubt.
So I think the likelihood of these dudes getting busted is high, but we'll see. I give it about a month. If the feds are on this, I give it about a month before the FBI starts identifying suspects in this case. Not that I want them to get caught or get away with it. I'm neutral on this, but boys and girls, do not go to jewelry stores with sledgehammers and axes and think that you're gonna get away with it.
Damn.
Because you're gonna end up in the penitentiary. And even though a gun was not used in this case, they would end up in an FCI or a USP if they got busted. Right?
I don't know, because I think it's going to be a low-level theft.
Even though it's $5 million worth of jewelry?
Right. Well, don't get me wrong. I have a chart at home, and I wish I meant to bring it. I set it on the table to bring it, and it tells you which offense level you are at each dollar amount. So that the more money that it is, it will push their offense level down, which creates more time. But it's still going to, revolve around. These dudes can end up at a low. I don't think they're going to get more than 5-6 years. You know what I mean?
Well, it was smart that they didn't.
If someone was to be convicted,
and it's smart that they didn't use a weapon. They didn't use a gun. So we'll see. I give it about a month, and we will update you guys on any developments in this Beverly Hills smash and grab robbery. Man, it just seems like this is the thing to do now.
Yeah, man, it's getting crazy because it's happening everywhere. Yeah. I'm looking every time I look on YouTube or watch the news, I'm seeing this happen more and more. I'm just wondering what can they do to get a hold of it, but I don't know if they can.
You know what makes it so easy to do is because you could walk down the street with your mask on, some sunglasses, a hoodie on. Because of COVID, it looks normal.
Right, no doubt.
And you could walk for blocks and your face is not even identified.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the reasons why it makes these offenses so, I guess, attractive to do, because you could wear a mask. But let's get on to this next topic, man. I'm sure you're familiar with these deputy gangs, being that Compton, Linwood is the heart of some of these sheriff gangs. I know for decades the Vikings was a L.A. County Sheriff deputy gang right out of Linwood.
Oh, no doubt. I remember when I was a kid hearing about it at first, and then firsthand watching deputies come up and the big homies say, man, they part of the Vikings. You know what I mean? I always wonder kind of how they knew, but they were already going to jail at the time. You know what I mean? So at first, I kind of didn't believe it, and then I really realized that it's really, the more and more people got to talking about it, it was just like a regular thing to us growing up in the Linwood Compton area. It was regular.
Now, this has been a topic in the news for the last several years of deputy gangs being active within the L.A. County Sheriff's Department, but a recent investigation by the Los Angeles County Civil Oversight Commission was able to identify 41 deputies that are in, I guess you could say, documented, that's the way they say it for the streets, documented gang members, like undocumented gangs. Like these dudes are no doubt part of a different gang within the sheriff's deputy department. And I guess it's an issue to have these cops being in gangs and coming together because they become more aggressive when they're on the streets.
No doubt, but they also bend the law and they watch each other's back as far as, covering up shit too. You know what I mean? See, one thing I'm not going to do is I'm never going to, parade crooked and dishonest cops. And growing up where I grew up, I dealt with the sheriff since I was in the 4th grade. Not personally myself, but in our neighborhood, it was always sheriffs. You know what I mean? Linwood sheriffs. So these guys were, man, they was rough and rugged, and they had each other back. They'll lie for each other. They'll steal for each other. They'll do all that for each other, but the average public don't see this, So, of course, they champion the local police departments and stuff like that, but they don't know some of these dudes is as crooked and wicked as the guys on the street.
No doubt. These police gangs have existed for about 50 years in L.A. County, and we talked about Lee Baca and Paul Tanaka before. I don't know if Lee Baca was a member, but absolutely Paul Tanaka is a member of the Vikings from back in his deputy days.
His deputy days, no doubt.
Yeah.
And that it's an allegiance that they still have. So when somebody come in his office or some come across his desk about one of his boys that's a Viking, best believe is like a fraternity member going to get a job, and they fraternity is doing the hiring. They're going, look out for their people, and it's the same way in these sheriff gangs, because that's what they are. They gangs, man. It ain't no allegiance. It ain't no, it's a gang, And when we learn that at a young age, when they pull up on us, roughing us up, throwing you on the car, hitting you in the ribs with the billy club, it was almost like it was just, you don't go home and tell your mother. You know what I mean? And they've been doing that for a very, very long time, getting away with it.
Yeah, these deputy gangs are so aggressive that I actually had a case last year, a civil case, where a police officer that wasn't part of the gang was suing the department because they beat him up on some, private stuff, something that happened privately in the locker room. He alleged that the gang within the police department or the sheriff's department end up assaulting him and treating him a different kind of way because he wasn't a member of their clique.
Right.
So he's filing a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. And according to this report, it says that these deputy gangs have fostered and promoted excessive force against citizens, discriminated against other deputies based on race and gender, and undermined the chain of command and discipline. So this is obviously a problem within the department, and any department should, if they care about the citizenry, should do everything within their power to get rid of these gangs.
Well, the thing about it, they can't get rid of them because, for one, it's a nice number of them. They need more deputies as it is now, So, and these guys take their case with, boss, we're trying to do what we need to do against these hardcore criminals. You can't take crime soft, So I'm sure they go in there with that saying, look, I need my guys out there to do what they doing, to do the rocking and rolling. Yeah, it's a dirty job, but somebody has to do it because these criminals is even dirtier. So I can see that argument, being given to who, the higher ups, and the higher ups saying, okay, y'all just be careful, try to, so they know what's going on, but they may put it into a situation where we need these guys out here because these are the guys who really going out here and get the real criminals.
Well, for years, the sheriff has denied the existence of them or denied that they're currently a problem, but now they've identified 41 deputies, and the sheriff, Alex Villanueva, he's got to deal with this situation. So I don't know what they're going to do, but these 41 deputies, in my view of it, they need to be looked at closely. All of their arrests, previous arrests and their cases need to be examined, and any previous reports of excessive force that are connected to these 41 deputies should be looked at more closely. What do you think about that?
What I think about, you have a great point there, but at the same time, it may fall in their lap. Because while we were talking about the 5 guys, well, one of them rolled, you talking about 41 guys now. And regardless of what honor they took or what code they took, everybody don't stick to the script. You know what I mean? Some of these dudes are probably in the gang, so they won't be an outsider. You know what I mean? So I don't know at the end of the day, if the feds get to bringing down a heavy hand on them, who gonna roll for a better deal? You know what I mean? So that's always a situation there where the information can come out by one of their own.
Well, I think the FBI and the federal government need to get involved, because that's the only time where these local law enforcement departments ever are held accountable.
Oh, no doubt.
Right now, we have Lee Baca, Paul Tanaka, we mentioned before, and about 18 other deputies sitting in the federal, probably a camp, sitting in the federal camp right now because of the FBI coming in on that Anthony Brown case with the cell phone.
Exactly.
So of these 41 deputies, 11 of them are a member of the Banditos, and 30 are a member of a gang called the Executioners.
I mean, just that name in itself tell you what they doing. They rocking and rolling, kicking ass. But they also taking up for each other. And we could laugh about it when we talk about some, them roughing up some gang members with a billy club or something like that. But when you get to talking about shootings, unjustified homicides, and stuff like that, then this stuff can get real serious, Alex. You know what I mean? And they running around, causing more harm in the community. And these are the guys who, they probably start shit just to make sure that they job security. You'll be surprised at some of the stuff to go on with some of these cops, man.
Well, before we move on to the next topic, I just want to mention that there was this deputy many, many years ago in Linwood. I believe his last name was Blair. He got shot and killed by a young crowd member, and Blair, turns out, was a member, I believe he was a member of the Vikings. But the case that connected to Blair that caused the dude to end up on death row, his name is Freddie Fuiva from Young Crowd. He's sitting on death row now for killing Officer Blair. I invite anyone to look at that case much closely. All of the case files are on the internet. Everything's online because he's sitting on death row. But if you look at that real closely, you'll find out and you'll see that Deputy Blair was the aggressor.
No doubt.
He was the
I
aggressor.
checked into that. I read that, and from what my conclusion came to, that he may have been the aggressor.
And this happened not too far from, probably right around the corner from where you was living at the time.
No doubt. I actually remember when it happened.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't far at all. Yeah.
So these deputies do pose a problem. They are more aggressive, and unfortunately, his aggression caused him to lose his life that day because he didn't realize the dude that he was being aggressive with would not hesitate.
No doubt.
To use his weapon. If he felt like you were going to kill him, he was going to kill you. And that's exactly what happened. Freddie Fuiva ended up shooting and killing Deputy Blair. And it is just a crazy, interesting case because it is tied into these deputy gangs. And this happened in, I believe, the 90s.
Yeah, that was in the mid-90s.
Yeah. 96. That happened in 96. Okay. So, these deputy gangs actually go back to the 70s. I believe the first one was in East L.A. So they do pose a problem, and something has to be done about it. And I think the only way to really solve the problem is for the FBI to get involved and to clean up some of these departments.
Well, just before we get off that topic, this is called, usually stuff don't come to light until, it's called kind of red-handed or somebody bring it to light. But I really think even on a smaller scale that some of this stuff goes on through a lot of police departments across the nation. This is not just a sheriff's department. This is not just a California issue. This is not just a LA issue. I really believe that this goes on across the spectrum of the United States, and they just haven't been able to shed light on it.
Yeah, I don't believe the LA County Sheriff's Department is the only department to have gangs, but, since they're the biggest largest sheriff department in the country.
Right.
They got more eyes and people looking at them. So let them be the example of what's going to happen. And I foresee that some of these deputies are going to get charged, indicted. I foresaw it before when the Anthony Brown thing. I actually shot a video about these deputies that were going to prison. What's crazy is when Lee Baca and Paul Tanaka went to prison along with 18 other deputies, it just seemed like it wasn't a big deal in the media. But we never see number one and number two of a police department going to prison.
That should have been bigger than what it was. I mean,
believe
that was huge.
I believe that Tanaka and Baca plus the 18 other deputies going to prison was bigger than the Rampart case.
No doubt. I believe so too.
And the number of years, everyone got like 5 years, 4 years, 5 years. The years that they got in prison was totaled more, and they were higher ranking. There was also a lieutenant involved in it, but hey, in today's age, there's just so much news that, the next day you kind of forget about what happened yesterday.
But not to get off topic real fast, when those guys went to prison, though, I mean, yeah, they may have landed in the camp and people don't really do nothing there, but it seemed like they should have got their ass beat, though, when they got there. All the oppression they was doing, in the streets, you know what I mean? This is when the table should have got turned, but you say they might have never been around some real G's or dudes that were trying to come home or something like that. But if they sure would have landed in a FCI or a USP, man, I think they would have got handled.
Well, these guys usually go to what they call like these, what do they call the
country club?
Yeah, the country club prisons. I heard some of these prisons, I guess these lows, some of them have golf courses.
Yeah, they got some shit out there for them, man.
Yeah,
but my point is, it's like, we being oppressed out here on these streets by these cops all these years, and then you run into them in jail and people don't do nothing to them. I mean, we gonna go, we gotta go. Not saying that's the way to do it, you know what I mean, and not enticing or promoting, but if you a gangster and you was out here getting oppressed and you oppressing, and you gang banging against other people, Crips, Bloods, essays or whatever, they shouldn't be no different, you know what I mean?
I agree 100%. But I don't think they'll ever allow
those guys in the same
a police officer to walk the main line, right? I don't think
you got a point. It's probably some that did it on the low. You know what I mean?
Well, I heard that if you're in a low, like Reggie Wright, he was a former cop. When he went to a camp.
Yeah.
So I guess camp is a little different.
No, it's a lot different. Plus when you got the privilege down there at the low end camp, I mean, especially if you got some more time to do, you really want to do your time as comfortable as possible. That's just the nature of, just anything. You want to be as comfortable as possible. So when you get down there, a lot of dudes don't jeopardize the stuff that they jeopardize at other places,
Yeah, I don't think that if you're at a camp as a former police officer, anything's going to happen to you.
Nah, no doubt. I agree with you.
But definitely if you're on a USP, I don't think...
they probably never even get there.
But you know what? There was a former FBI agent that ended up going to prison for murder. Mm-hmm. He had to have gone to a USP or FCI.
It was
right?
federal?
Yeah, it was federal too.
Because he probably had a life sentence. So
his name was Robert Conley.
Oh, okay.
And he went to prison. He was an FBI agent that was helping Whitey Bulger in Boston.
Yeah.
I wonder if he was able to go on a main line. Okay, so if your offense is at a high for a USP or FCI, and you are a former cop, is there protective areas at those USPs?
Hell no. If somebody wants you, they gonna get you. Just straight up. Then you got to think about it, especially the dudes at the USP. These dudes got life sentences, man, most of them. So they don't care about stabbing. What, you gonna give them some more life? You know what I mean? So they wouldn't even put them there, man. They wouldn't even send them there. They know hands down, once that's found out, somebody gonna gut their ass out.
Yeah, Robert Conley was sentenced to like something ridiculous back in 2000. And they let him out in 2021. They let him out last year because of, have you ever heard of this? A medical release. Because he has a terminal cancer.
Yeah.
He's going to die soon. So they let him out.
Yeah.
Why would they let this dude out who was connected to murders?
A lot of times it's basically money. It's costing them too much to take care of this guy and facilitate him. So a lot of times, when they know for sure that... this guy may not make it. I have heard of that.
Okay, yeah, he's connected to Whitey Bulger. Whitey Bulger actually got killed in prison a couple years
A couple
back.
years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, he got stabbed.
He was on a run though for a while, wasn't he?
Yeah, and they found him out here.
Yeah, they found him out
They
here. Yeah,
actually
yeah.
found him in Santa Monica in an apartment, and they ripped the walls out of his apartment. It was 800,000 cash in the walls.
Man.
But he was a cold informant.
Yeah.
And that's how he got stabbed in prison. And he was actually helping Robert Conley. That's why Robert Conley, the FBI agent, ended up going to prison. But he was just released in February 17th of 2021 because of health factors. So, yeah, I'd be interested to know how many law enforcement people have walked the main line at a FCI or USP. But I guess he would have had to be there with everybody.
No doubt, for real.
But because he was sort of a gangster cop, would he get a little bit of respect on the yard, though?
Well, a lot of times when you come in, listen, if you're not a gang member, who's to check your paperwork? You know what I mean? It's probably somebody from your own race or something like that. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. None of this is airtight. You know what I mean? So you can get away with certain stuff and certain areas of the country. And you know what I mean? It happens, Alex. It really do happen. Sometimes it'd be years before somebody find out that somebody not right. You know what I mean? So it's possible.
Okay. Now, let's move on to this next topic. This next topic is really something that's been going on since COVID really popped off in March or April of 2020, is that a lot of people are applying for this PPP money, and the government, they're not screening the applicants, and they're issuing pretty much anybody who applied, anyone who submitted the correct quote-unquote paperwork, you got your money. And the government was giving people millions of dollars.
Right.
And all you had to do was just say, like, for example, just recently, this guy was found guilty in trial of stealing $27 million.
Ooh, that's a lot.
And what he did was he said he had 27 different companies, and he basically got $1 million for each company.
Right.
And he said 100 people worked for each of these companies.
Yeah, I was going to say, he must have said that he had companies with at least 100 people. Because I think with at least 100 people, you guaranteed a payroll of something like $400,000 a month or something. And he was cleaning up.
Yeah, but to do what he did, it is a lot of work though, because you got to be in Photoshop, you got to fabricate.
That's a lot of money though.
Yeah,
that might have been worth it, but they gonna tear his ass up.
Look, I was trying to apply for some PPP money, and just to do it the legit way, it was just so many hoops to jump through. I gave up on it. Right. I didn't even apply for any. I think I was entitled to like $5,000 or $10,000, but this guy did all of the paperwork and ended up getting $27 million. Damn. He took it to trial, and he lost.
He went to trial.
He went to trial, and he's looking at 30 years in prison.
And they may give it to him.
Now here's my thing. This is a fraud case.
Yeah.
How many people that are found guilty of fraud end up at these USPs and FCIs?
A lot, quite a bit.
Because of the amount of money
Okay.
You
know what I mean? Well, for him, it'd be the amount of money. I know a cat that came to the FCI. Him and his mom and them did the FEMA scam. And what they did was they gave him 6 months probation, but he violated the probation. And he came to the FCI. But, of course, he had been in state prison before. But I knew some other guys, some white-collar guys, did some big Ponzi scheme situations. And, I mean, they had never had a criminal history ever. But the amount of money it was, because millions was involved, they ended up at the FCI. And they did good.
Well, this guy that just that stole $27 million, his name is Robert Ben Levy. He's of Encino, Los Angeles, and he is 53 years old. And one of the ways they catch these people is by the purchases they make.
Right.
Now, there was another guy that I remember a couple months ago. He got like $5-6 million.
I think we're talking about the same. I think I know about the guy.
He bought a Ferrari.
Right. I heard about that guy.
Lamborghini, and another third. He bought 3 cars. Each of the 3 cars was worth like $300,000 each.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't understand, how do these people think they're really gonna get away with this?
Well, I mean, I'm wondering, why do you need a Ferrari and a Lamborghini? You know what I mean? And
I mean, if you got the money for it, why not, right? Especially if it's not your money.
I got you, but at the same time, it's still overkill, especially when you got it fraudulent. And you have to understand one thing about getting money fraudulent, because I've gotten money fraudulent, you still have to be mindful of what you're doing. The purchases you make, the income taxes that you filed previous years before that. Sometimes these people go into a certain amount of backgrounds and just to see how you can afford this. You know what I mean? So yeah, that guy right there, man, he went overkill on the cars, but yeah, it's a lot of fraud going on out there. Believe it.
Go ahead.
I'm wondering what the deal was for this guy though. This guy Ben Levy. I'm wondering what his deal was.
Oh, what you think he was offered a deal?
Yeah. I'm sure they hate to go to trial. They don't like to go to trial. They spend a lot of money upward to $500,000 going to trial. So they always trying to force a deal on you. And most of the time they know they got you anyway.
So basically, you're saying he turned down a deal.
I'm thinking he turned down
and said, "Let's take it."
No doubt. Let's go to trial. Yeah. So that's where they're going to bust him upside the head even more because you made us spend all this money and you knew you was guilty and came here wasting our time, wasting our money.
Well, the guy that got the Lamborghinis and the Ferraris, he got $5 million in PPP money, not as much as Ben Levy did, and he did not take it to trial. He pled guilty for the $5 million that he took, and his name is Mustafa Kadiri.
Yeah, that's the guy.
And I'm trying to figure out. He's 38 years old out of Irvine, right here in Orange County, and I'm not sure if he's been sentenced yet, but he took a deal. He did the right thing.
Yeah, he did. I mean, you're guilty, man.
Yeah. It says here that federal agents seized a Ferrari, a Bentley, and a Lamborghini that Kadari bought with the PPP money, plus another $2 million that was in his account.
Damn.
So it's just crazy how many people are not only how many people are fraudulently applying for this money. I was reading that 10% of the applicants are fraud. And that 10% comes out to like 50 or 60 billion with a B. And I'm just shocked that there are that many people that are willing to take the chance with the federal government. But then two, the checks and balances do not prevent them from receiving the money. You would think it'd be hard to apply for a $27 million loan. And one excuse was that because COVID hit so hard and so fast, they didn't have enough time to really set up a system that would check every applicant. And because it was people needed money so bad, they believed that all these applicants most of them would be, most of them were honest. 90% of the people who applied were legit. But the 10% are people that are doing this crap.
No doubt. And it seemed like they would have some checks and balances, but they didn't. Because here in LA, it was PPP was a big word when it was going down, and it was almost a phrase, a joke phrase, anybody has some money, you got some PPP money, that's how widespread it was known in the streets, so there was a lot of fraud going on, and maybe they certainly going after the big guys like 27 million, 5 million. I mean, that's a lot of money, maybe the guys who got 10, 15, 11,000 right now, they may not want to waste the money to pursue that at this moment, but they're probably starting with the big wigs first.
You know what? You're absolutely right. I've been reading a whole lot of these cases, and none of the cases are lower than 500,000. So it seems as if they don't care about people who got smaller amounts.
Right.
I haven't read any case where they're charging someone that took 10,000.
Right.
It's 500,000. It's $1 million, 5 million. This dude 27 million. So I guess the rule here is if you were going to apply for some PPP money and you don't want to get caught, keep it under 100,000.
Keep it at a dub or something.
Yeah. They might not come after you. All right. So I just thought that was crazy and interesting.
That was a lot of work, man. I mean, I'm just starting to think about how much work he had to do to apply for that many different loans, that much fraudulent paperwork. Paperwork is involved.
Hey, I'm going to have to assume that this dude is really good at Photoshop, because you have to submit fake paperwork, and you have to go in there and manipulate everything.
Okay, yeah, I haven't even seen the application, but yeah.
Yeah, so he was able to create businesses, and also he created businesses that didn't even exist.
Right, I know some people just like, doctored up from their real business that they had a couple more employees, but this dude didn't even have a business at all. He just made clearly fake businesses.
Yeah, someone was telling me to apply because you already have a business. You have you have all the paperwork for your business. Apply, and I was like, okay. This guy didn't even have a business,
right?
So he created a fake business, and then of course filled out the application fraudulently on fake businesses. Hey, it's a lot of work what he did.
Well, I don't think it was nothing wrong with people who did have businesses and applied, even on a smaller level. You know, I mean, I know some people that only got 1,800. You know, but at the time, that 1,800 worth of groceries, you know, helped out. You know what I mean?
No doubt, no doubt.
So,
No, I would never turn down $1,800.
you know, so
I got 3 kids,
man,
and one of them's in college.
right.
All right, let's get to this topic that the whole world is talking about, man, and unfortunately we can't ignore it. Chris Rock got slapped by Will Smith on live television for the world to see.
Man, what did you think about that when you initially seen it?
Well, I saw it and immediately I thought it was real, so I had called somebody up and said, "Hey, you saw that?" And they were like, "Oh no, that was fake."
Yeah.
I was like, "That was fake? Nah, that couldn't have been fake. Nah, it was fake." So that was the first thing, was like figuring out, was this real or was it staged? Was it acting?
Right.
But then I watched it again, and what made me realize it was real, I'm looking at Jada Pinkett's face. And her face was a face of disgust. She was disappointed. She didn't like the joke. She just had this look. Her body language was like a look of she hated Chris Rock or something. But what's crazy, Will Smith was laughing at that joke.
No doubt. He damn sure was.
He was laughing.
Yeah.
And I think he looked at his wife while he was laughing, and he had to change the game.
But that's the part I didn't like. You know what I mean? Not that he changed his game or his face, but you went and did the extras after you laughed. Now, say if the joke was said and he immediately got up and went up there and did that, I could have respected it more, Alex. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not that I'm condoning it. I'm just saying I know how emotions are. You know what I mean? I know it's a lot of people out here that work with emotions. So as soon as he said that joke, if his emotions was triggered, you know what I mean? See, he couldn't even get no justifiable nothing that I was in a moment of rage or I was in. No, you laughed first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You gonna get no sympathy, you know. And so from that perspective, because like I said, when I first saw it, I thought it was staged and faked, you know.
Oh, you thought it was fake?
Yeah, because I was at work and I somebody sent it to me and I looked at it and I thought it was some fake shit, you know what I mean? And then when he started saying, "Keep my fucking wife's," when he did, in the way he said, I said, "Oh no, that shit real," you know what I mean? So, I mean, overall though, your opinion on Chris Rock's perspective? Do you think he took the right approach, or being that they were at the Academy Awards, being that them white folks run that academy, man, and you may never get a job again. You know, you do the wrong shit per se. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But do you think Chris Rock took all that in consideration, or did he just say, you know what, I did say something about the dude wife, I'ma take that?
Hey, I felt it was a legitimate joke. I didn't think it was over the top. I didn't think it was highly offensive. And I do think that Chris Rock, being from Brooklyn, lost some points. He had every right to defend himself.
Right.
He had every right to defend himself.
Now, also they saying that she suffered from something called alopecia, which I had never heard of up until now. I do know she used to shave her head off doing other shit when, before this was a diagnosed situation for her. I do know Chris Rock has in the past, I think it was 2016, he was on a helmet with some hell of a jokes back then, but I also know they were friends, So, the part you saying that it was a legitimate joke, I mean, it was if he didn't know that she kind of suffered from some kind of, symptoms of hair loss.
Well, let's be real about what alopecia is. Alopecia is just your hair falls out. You're suffering only psychologically.
Okay.
You're not suffering medically.
Right.
You're not in any danger of dying.
Like I said, I never heard of it until now.
Yeah, I actually had alopecia in 90, what year was that? July of 97. I'm looking in the mirror one day, and like a big 1-inch square patch of hair just fell out. And then I realized I was losing my eyebrows.
Damn.
So for about 2 years, my hair was just falling out in just random places.
Yeah.
So I went to the doctor and they said, "Oh yeah, you have alopecia." And for a minute, you're like, "Man, I don't like this." Basically, your immune system is attacking your hair follicles, and it thinks the hair follicle is an enemy.
Oh, okay.
So I understand what alopecia is. Yeah, and I guess it impacts women more so. I mean, I wasn't tripping. I'm like, okay, my hair falling out.
So it didn't impact you physically or nothing like that?
Not at all.
You didn't have weakness? Or
No. There's 3 levels of alopecia, minor, medium, and major. So that's all it is. It's and the reason why we don't know why it happens, there's no cure, no one wants to stop it, is because it's not a fatal disease.
Right.
So you're not going to get millions and millions of dollars of research in trying to cure alopecia.
Right.
Because nobody gives a fuck about alopecia.
Right.
You know, so I understand that women probably suffer more psychologically at losing their hair than us men do. I see you rock the bald head, so it ain't no big deal thing to you.
Right.
Also, although when we're young, you know, I remember when my hair started to thin out, I was like, oh, okay, my hair's thinning out. Or when I first started getting gray, oh, okay, this is. But at some point for me, I accept what it is.
Right,
you know?
right, no doubt.
There's so many bigger medical problems in the world to deal with than to be tripping on alopecia. So she doesn't get any sympathy points from me from having alopecia.
But you say Chris Rock lost points with you.
Hey, man, he's Brooklyn born and bred.
Yeah.
A motherfucker come up to you and smack you, at least smack back.
Yeah.
Or at least
try.
swing.
Yeah,
something.
do something. Yeah.
Tackle the dude.
Tackle
He turned around and walked off like
Right.
he owned the place.
Or jump on his back or something around this motherfucker. Yeah.
But he took the high road. And I think for a minute, he was a little unsure of what to do.
Right.
So I'm thinking, wait, how much Brooklyn are you, Chris Rock?
Well, you know, he Brooklyn, but at the same time, he Hollywood as far as,
There
you know,
you go.
getting that money.
Yeah.
So that money and losing it or not having the opportunity to continue making it can make somebody, you know, think different.
But he had every right, though.
No doubt. But I mean, can you really imagine though, had he ran and jumped on Will's back and they got the tussling on stage?
It would look bad, right?
It'll look bad for us as a whole, just to be honest with you. You know what I mean?
That's true. I mean, it would. Well, let me ask you, because you seem to be a man of much high moral character when it comes to another man in your face and addressing you. I mean, if a man is smacking you and you're on a stage, I'm sure you're gonna do something.
Well, this is the thing about it. Soon as he stood up to get up from his chair, I'd have been ready. I wouldn't have had my hands behind my back. I'm right-handed, but I can't hit with the left, so I would have already decided which hand I'm finna hold the mic with one hand and crack him with the other one if it comes to that. So he just clearly, I believe, didn't think he would do that. So I get a lot of people saying, man, he just had his hands behind his back like it was staged or something. No, he had his hands behind his back because he didn't think that was going to happen. I do get that part. You know what I mean? And after it happened, you know, they like, well, he didn't fall or he didn't this and that. I said, listen, man, you didn't have Mike Tyson slapping you. You had, you know, Wil Smith slap. So he wasn't going to fall all on the ground and flop all on the ground, you know. But Chris Rock posed a guy down where he got mad at, man. And I don't think nobody would have got mad at him.
I mean, he could have even said something like, "You's a bitch for that, Will."
Yeah.
Or he didn't even say nothing. He was like, "This is the craziest night on television history."
I mean, but when you dancing, you know, for the Academy, you know, which some of them dudes, you know, they know who to. Let me just don't bullshit. They know who to hire the big hand in that situation is. They know where their career at is where it is. Just like Samuel L. Jackson won his first Oscar, his first Academy Award. You didn't hear about it because of the slap, but they also didn't even show it. They did it on a commercial and didn't even show it in the on TV. You know what I mean? So when it comes to the Academy Awards, you already know blacks has been lagging in that category for years. You know what I mean? So Chris Rock knows this. He wanted to be host so bad he was willing to take a slap, take the higher road in order to stay in the position that he in. That's just my take on it. You know what I mean? So, but I'm sure you've seen the memes that said, here's a list of comedians I bet he wouldn't have slapped. You know what I mean? So Will Smith also took it upon himself to know who he was dealing with and what he was dealing with. Because he wouldn't have slapped Dave Chappelle. He wouldn't have slapped a whole lot of other ones. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, no doubt about that. I was a little surprised that the whole audience, after Will Smith did win the Oscar for playing King Richard, Serena and Venus's father, he won the Oscar for that movie for Best Actor. He got a applause. He got an ovation when he went to the stage after he gave his very emotional, his emotional
Bullshit speech.
Yeah. and I was going to say, I don't believe anything in that speech.
Right.
That was just his way of trying to cover him hitting Chris Rock on live television. But I was just surprised of how much support that he was receiving when really we should be going in on you. Like, why you lost it? You are that so emotionally unhinged
Right.
that you smacked the dude on live television.
No doubt, and like you say, you also slapped your folks. You know what I mean? Because if you went up there and slapped a white boy, you know what I mean? He wouldn't have got no applause after that.
No
I
doubt.
guarantee you.
No
Not
doubt.
to mention, you know, Chris Rock kept it Brooklyn when he didn't tell though. When he said, "I don't want to press charges," he did do that. But I don't know, man. That just was some crazy shit right there.
I was wondering if law enforcement doesn't even need Chris Rock to press charges because they have the evidence.
Right, I heard they was looking into it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And in these certain cases, he could get a letter a week from now, say, come down, we're going to file charges against you, you know, the county police department or whatever, and it's still possible. The conviction part may be different. You know, he might get one of them deals like, who was that just got the deal last week where they dismissed the case after you did the fine in the community service, it's not on your record, you know. So he can get something like that, but I don't think they're going to go hard. Now, I'm wanting to see how the Academy takes it because you have people like Jim Carrey. You just see Jim Carrey on Gayle?
No.
You know Gayle King.
Yeah.
She's interviewing Jim Carrey about it, you know, and I had an issue with that. Go talk to your folks. Get your folks' opinion. You know what I mean? You want to run to the white boy and ask him what his opinion is, and he's sitting there, you know, I was disgusted, and you know what I mean? But I bet if it was one of his homies, he wouldn't have been as disgusted. He would have did the same thing Denzel and them did, comfort they boy, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying he right or wrong. I'm not taking sides on this. I'm just saying, you know, Gail gonna run and get the white boy to do the interview, you know, and when she could have talked to, we got higher up. She could have asked Denzel about it, or she could have asked, you know, some of our people about it, you know. But at the same time, you know how this shit go.
Yeah, I did hear that Jim Carrey, he's anti Will Smith now.
Yeah, no doubt, and it's following. Even though Will still have some support, I mean, I believe people shouldn't not have support for Chris Rock though. You know what I mean? He didn't fight back. I mean, that's not a.
That's a street thing.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So you know, I don't look at him really no different. I mean, of course, crack the jokes like, dude, you didn't spit on the dude or nothing. I mean, you didn't do nothing, but not that I'm into spitting on nobody, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I was a little surprised of the lack of response by Chris Rock. You know, initially I thought it was a punch. I didn't know it was a slap because you couldn't see how it from the angle. I only saw it from one angle.
Right.
So I thought he punched him initially, and I was saying, man, Will don't hit that hard.
Well, you know, for me, I think a slap is more disrespectful than a punch. A man slapping you,
Yeah.
man, that's some disrespectful shit right there. I mean, that's almost like spitting on me. I mean, them two things that, as a man, don't spit on me, don't slap. You know, if you whoop my ass, you just whoop my ass, but don't slap me. I mean, goddamn, that's, you know.
I feel like the slap though from Will Smith is a way of saying I want to hit you, but I don't want to hit you that hard.
I've just got not mixed emotion, but I got just mixed opinions on it, just based on you laughed, bro. You know what I mean? You laughed. I just believe you could have said from what you said down there, keep my wife's name out your mouth. You could have said that the same 2 times you said it as aggressively as you said it, and the picture would have got. I think the picture would have got through. You know, I think it's gonna hurt Will. I mean, he got hundreds of $1 million. I mean, it's not gonna hurt his pockets, but I believe at some point, you know, it's gonna be some backlash for him.
Well, my question is like, what type of influence does Jada Pinkett have over Will for him to go from laughing at the joke to all of a sudden I'm about to go up here and smack the dude who did the joke?
Right, no doubt. I thought of that too, but I also saw that after he smacked him for a second, Chris Rock kind of looked up in the air like he was contemplating. And it just almost, I'm assuming that it seemed like he was contemplating, do you know what I could say right now? You know what I mean? You know, I could annihilate you, you know, verbally right now, you know, and chose not to, but I'm just saying it just for a minute he stopped and looked and he almost was like, you know, I'm gonna take the high road, you know what I mean? But he could have laid it on his ass.
I mean, he could have went there with the August Alsina
Oh,
jokes.
no doubt, because they everywhere right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's making Will look, you know, I'm going to be honest with you. Me and my wife got into a little discussion about it last night that wasn't, I mean, it was a, you know, a heated discussion a little bit. You know what I mean? You know, because her brother felt one way and, you know, and she didn't agree with what he was saying, you know, and I'm like, everybody's entitled to their opinion, you know, and, but it was clear that, to me, You know, people want to say that he was defending his wife, and dude, if you was defending your wife, you would have been offended when he said it. And then I would have accepted it, you know. But once you laugh and then look at her, then you know she give you the look and you go run over here and do that. That was kind of some sucker shit to me.
Yeah, I think that was basically beta male behavior. That Jada is in control. Jada sicked Will on Chris.
No doubt.
Jada influenced that, and most of us aren't even having a conversation about Jada. It's all about Will and Chris. Will and Chris.
Right. Well, like I say, to me, like I said, that was the point for me. When you laughed, looked at her, and then you decided that it should be something different. That was some sucker shit, man. You should have felt how you felt from the beginning, you know.
Well, I didn't think the joke was that funny. GI. When are you gonna do GI Jane Part 2 because of the bald head?
Yeah, you remember who was that? Jane Fonda? No, that was
Demi Moore.
Demi Moore. That was Demi Moore, and I mean, it wasn't a bad. I mean, it wasn't a horrible joke. I mean, you know what I mean. As far as wasn't lowballed. It was just a joke, you know. But
yeah, I thought for a minute I didn't even get it. I was like, wait, GI Jane, okay.
Yeah, I remember GI Jane. I'll be into them old army movies and shit.
I mean, the movie was like almost 20 years ago.
Yeah. I didn't watch it. I just do remember it though. But
yeah, so let's final thoughts on the whole Chris Rock and Will Smith, and we're calling this the Chris Rock and Will Smith thing, but it's really Chris Rock, Will Smith, Jada.
Right. Can't leave that out.
Jada pretty much, in my opinion, she controlled the whole thing.
Well, you know, it's a lot of argument going around town right now as we speak about the situation, because I think females are looking at it like Will was supposed to do what Jada asked him to do, or how she felt at the time, you know, because if Jada would have laughed at the joke or wouldn't have gave Will that look, then it wouldn't have been a problem with Will. You know, that's the whole thing about it. You know, if I'm somewhere with my wife, somebody say something to her that's I feel is offensive, you know, I'm gonna know how I feel immediately. You know.
Yeah.
And
you don't need the look.
I don't need the look. You know what I mean? So, you know, and the look not gonna make me just go get up and basically assault a man, you know, on stage at the Academy Awards. You know, I believe he should have caught him backstage, you know, and handled it back there. That's just what, you know, look, you going to take your ass back out there, you going to apologize to my wife, or I'm going to beat your ass. And let him come back out and apologize. I actually seen that situation happen before.
I think Jada's look was basic. I'm going to translate her look. Her look was, this dude did a joke about me in 2016 and I didn't like it. Mm-hmm. And I don't like this joke in 2022, Will. What are you going to do?
Well, shit.
Because if you remember, Chris Rock said something about...
he said something about her.
She was boycotting the Oscars because it was so white.
Right.
And Chris Rock was like, wait up, you ain't even invited to the Oscars.
Right.
You ain't even a part of the Oscars.
Yeah.
So I guess she didn't like that joke in 2016. And I think that was the look that she gave Will. Like, this is the second time this guy's going in on me.
No doubt.
What are you going to do, Will?
No doubt. Well, I remember one time we was at a award show, right? And we got floor seats, and me and Lip Dog, we sitting on this side, Buntry and Suge sitting on this side. And at the intermission, the host, the MC, he cracked a joke about Lip Dog dress apparel. You know? Lip Dog went backstage, got on that ass, dude came back out. You know, I want to apologize to Mr. Lip Dog.
Damn.
In front of Magic Johnson, everybody was here. You know what I mean? Lip to play that shit, dude. You ain't gonna, you know. I'd never forget that. That was some funny shit.
Hey, but when you go to a comedy club and you sitting in the front row, you have to know what you're signing up for.
Well, you know, my wife tried to tell my son like that last night because I was like, you know, it was just a joke. And my wife told my son, she say, you talking that shit about it was just a joke, but what about that time when D-Ray cracked that joke on you made him in the bathroom and shit? You know, them jokes be, you know, they get to you. You know, you got to stay out there front row, man. You know what I mean? And yeah, D-Ray cracked the old joke on me. I was on his ass, but that's my boy and shit.
Now, I don't think that we should be offended when comedians crack jokes on us because that's what they do.
No, that's
right. That's what they do. I mean, I've heard comedians say some of the craziest things to people in the front, and that's just what it is. And now we're gonna start attacking comedians because now comedians gonna feel hesitant now to tell certain jokes when they're on stage.
Nah, that ain't how it is though. It's still at this point in my life, you know what I mean? I wasn't a jokester. You know what I mean? I wasn't a bagger and one of the dudes in the hood to be bagging and talking shit. That wasn't my get down. You know what I mean? I frequent this spot all the time, or some of these people frequent this spot all the time, and everybody don't play that shit. You know what I mean? Just to be honest, now I know you come to a comedy club. Don't sit your ass in the front though. That I did learn that. You don't sit your ass in the front. Sit your ass somewhere else. You know what I mean?
And don't be with the ugly girl either.
Yeah, none of that. You can't do none of that. You know what I mean? But don't get me wrong. Like you said, I do believe comedians have all the right in the world. But sometimes in what you going through or who the person is, a comedian should be able to gauge a person as well. And be like, this I don't see a big smile on it. I don't see it in his eyes that he, you know what I mean? This dude look like he probably just came from the hood or putting some work in. He just coming to have a drink and get out of the city. You know what I mean? They got to be responsible too, shit. Because a lot of times you go, that's what you're doing, getting away from, reality.
So you saying they got to know, they got to sense who could take a joke and who might not be able to take a joke.
No, what I'm saying is in life, period, we should always check the temperature. Mm-hmm. And I think we really do. That's how some of us make it, because you can see some shit finna happen, like you in the bank. You gonna look at some suspicious shit. Somebody might be in there do cashing they check or doing. You gonna see some suspicious shit, you know what I mean? Just because you're aware of and you're paying attention to certain shit, you know what I mean? If a guy walk in the bank with some Nike Cortez, some khakis, and a white T-shirt on, you gonna double look at him. That's just human nature, you know what I mean? That's just how it is. So, not saying judge nobody, but sometimes take into consideration,
Well, you think that Chris Rock and Will Smith, they're going to end up kumbayaing at some point real soon?
I do, but I don't think it's going to be because they really want to like that. I think they're going to do it based on some public shit. I think Will may do something under the table and say, homie, this don't make it right, but we going to do this the white way. We ain't going to do this the right way. We going to do this the white way. You know what I mean? Because they both getting a lot of money out of Hollywood, you know what I mean? And they do rely on these other factors as far as the people behind the scenes that's making shit happen. So they probably telling Will, the best way you going to do is, hey, bam, get with Chris Rock. I'll give a damn if you go sit at the red table with him, maybe apologize or say something, or have a light small argument with no violence or nothing like that. But at the end of the day, making up, for the greater good of this whole Hollywood thing.
When he gave his acceptance speech for winning the Oscar, he apologized, but not to Chris.
No doubt.
He apologized to the Academy, and he apologized to the other nominees. So he even after some time had passed, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, he was still upset with Chris. He didn't say, I want to apologize to Chris Rock. I shouldn't have did that.
Well, this is the thing about it. Chris Rock was a repeat offender. You got priors for talking shit about my wife. You know what I mean? So I do take that into consideration.
But they were just regular jokes. They weren't over the top jokes.
Go tell some jokes about these other people though. You know what I mean? Get off my wife. You know what I mean? Get off my situation. Don't bring, even though before he made that joke, he was talking to a white couple saying, because I think the husband and wife were nominated for Academy, both of them. Yeah. So they were saying that's not going to go over if he win, you know what I mean? You're going to have hard times at home. So y'all probably would hope Will win. So he was talking and doing that, but at the same time, you got priors for talking shit about Jada. Will say, I'm going to put a stop to this shit today,
Well, the previous joke was 2016. How many years ago was that? That's 6 years ago. He told that joke.
Yeah, but that's our wives, and you're not gonna forget about a joke somebody told about your wife 15 years ago. You're gonna remember that shit, and when they do it again, you're gonna say, "Hold on, this the second, third time this dude done said something about my wife." You know what I mean?
Would you be personally offended by those jokes of your wife?
Well, this is the thing about it. He told some jokes about his wife before. So my wife would have said something about the last jokes that she told. I would have knew exactly how she felt about Chris Rock. This your spouse. She know how you feel about everybody. You know what I mean? So if she would have been saying like, yeah, Chris Rock cracking these lame ass jokes about me, I would have knew she felt some kind of way. Me and Chris Rock is cool like for years. They got pictures together. They probably done hang out together. Probably done been on tours together, vacation together. Hey, Alex, lay off the jokes on Jada, man. You know what I mean? So I believe that it could have went that way. You know what I mean? You should have known before this if my wife felt some kind of way about these jokes or not. I would have asked you to don't do it. You know what I mean?
I don't have a problem with the jokes. Tell as many jokes as you want about my wife. Regular jokes, I'm cool with them. I don't think they're offensive jokes.
I got you, but I don't want nobody telling jokes about my wife in that kind of platform. You know what I mean? Me don't get up around all these white folks and shit and don't want to go around talking. Now if we at the comedy club, we at the House of Blues. We at the Laugh Factory or something. Sure, all day long. But don't get up here in the Academy and War in front of all these white folks and try to demean a black queen. That's how I look at it in a totality.
A lot of black women are supporting Will because they feel like this is what men are supposed to do: protect our black women, protect our black queens. But I didn't see it as anything to be protected from.
No doubt. Will was protected from whatever Jada was gonna do to Will last when they got home. That's what he was protecting. They see black women gonna look at it like that. You know what I mean? And it's nothing wrong for them to have their opinion and look at it like that in that aspect. Like I say, the problem that I had, the only two things I had a problem with was she gave him that look before he did something, and Chris Rock didn't swing back.
Also, Will laughed.
Yeah, no doubt, and
He
everybody
laughed
saw
at
that.
that joke.
So it made your little acceptance speech. Everybody should have been like, that's some bullshit.
I think he should have got an Oscar for that speech because he cried a little bit too much.
Yeah.
All right, man. Let's close this episode 7 of Streets and Scholars out, man.
Now, real fast, not to cut you off, but before you go, do you think he'll be facing any charges?
I think that he might get hit with a misdemeanor assault charge and have to do some sort of community service, nothing serious, without Chris Rock even having to pursue anything.
Right.
Because you can't, the LAPD can't just let nothing happen.
Right.
And of course, George Gascon will probably just give him the minimum.
Right.
Like 10 hours of community service. Just show up at a city event.
Yeah.
And we will drop the misdemeanor charges.
Right.
Yeah, but something most likely will happen. But I'm glad Chris Rock ain't pursuing nothing. It ain't really nothing worth pursuing. But hey, like you said, it's getting slapped in the face, man. Is nothing nice.
No doubt. Did you hear Chris Rock little concert? He's doing a world tour right now.
Nah.
Yeah, he's doing the 2022 world tour right now, and I know
his tickets are probably gonna be
they
sold out, right?
They say they selling like hotcakes.
Okay, so
and I know next month he's going to be out there in Coachella somewhere. So
he's gonna benefit from this.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, I want to see if he telling the jokes at that.
Oh man, he's
or what his response is at the at his stand up. Yeah,
he's gonna have some incredible jokes, man. Yeah. I like his stand up better than what he does for the Oscars. I think his Oscar jokes are kind of whitewashed.
Oh, no doubt.
Whitewashed Oscar jokes.
No doubt.
I don't know why even have Kevin Hart and Chris Rock host it when you make them tell whitewashed jokes.
Right. No doubt.
But when he's doing his own thing, he gets down. All right, man. Episode 7. It's a wrap. Streets and Scholars. Check us out. FG General 1 on Instagram. FG Unleashed on YouTube. Check me out at Alex Alonso 101 on all social media platforms. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Apple iTunes, leave a comment. Leave a rating. I appreciate that. It'll help us out. And I will address any questions that you have in those ratings. And if you're on Spotify or any other platforms, follow us. Follow Streets and Scholars. Episode 7 is done, and we are here every Thursday. And thanks for checking us out.